After working hard at the gym, you need a mattress that works as hard as you do. Spinalign has engineered the perfect mattress for you and your active lifestyle. Don't compromise your recovery with inferior sleep. Order your Spinalign mattress today.
Hello, I'm Brian Dobson, owner of Metroflex Gym, the original home of hardcore training. This pandemic has nearly crippled the fitness industry we all so dearly love. With Metroflex gyms now opening up all across the country, it's our turn to hit back. If your health was ever a priority, now's the time. Now's the time to stop feeding your fear and your anxieties and feed your desire to get back on the saddle. For desire is the starting point of all achievement. For those who feel uncertain for what the future will hold, I'm here to assure you Metroflex Gym will continue to provide a platform for bodybuilding and strength conditioning athletes all across the nation. This optimism extends to potential owners looking to venture into owning and operating a Metroflex Gym. With interest rates at an all-time low, you can open up your own Metroflex Gym for the price of a new car. Our Metroflex Gyms are back in business. We're now waiting for you to do the same. Stay hardcore, y'all, and God bless.
Rush Vapes, the world's first pre-workout vape.
I'm Dave Palumbo, founder of Species Nutrition. I created Species Nutrition with one mission in mind: to provide bodybuilders and serious athletes with no-nonsense supplements that work and are backed by science. From my earliest bodybuilding days, I believed in only putting the best in my body. And that lives on in the Species Nutrition line of products. We use only top-of-the-line formulations dosed for maximum results and the best flavoring systems available. I put my name and reputation on every bottle of Species Nutrition products. If you want to be your absolute best, join the evolution.
Hey guys, we're super excited to be here at the LA Fit Expo. It's our third year in a row. And what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be launching the Tasty Pastry. It's a low-carb Pop-Tart. It's got 3 to 4 grams of net carbs. And we love this show. This is our best place to be in LA.
RX Television on RxMuscle.com. This is Ask Dave, better known as hashtag Ask Dave, your 30-minute question and answer show with Dave Palumbo. Of course, all your questions, diet, training, supplementation, everything going on in the world of bodybuilding and beyond, as we now bring in Dave Palumbo. Dave, full disclosure for the fans watching, we are using a new platform right now for this episode. We're trying something new. We've been reading your comments lately, and many of our fans had suggested that we try Zoom instead of Skype, which we traditionally use. We're trying that out now, so we're going to see if we can get some user feedback from that. But you have a couple of cool items in studio right now. First off, a poster sent by the great Charles Lothian.
Actually, I have 4 posters. It's a series he sent me, and he sent me a number of years ago. First of all, Charles, for those of you who don't know, Charles Lothian is a Australian photographer. But he's known for taking, his images and kind of sometimes putting in pictures together in one picture that weren't really there. So he photoshops there's a classic picture of Kai, Rodin, Jay, and Heath on stage, but they really were never all on stage together. But you would never know it by this picture. And I have it hanging in my office. He He sent that to me a bunch of years ago, probably like eight years ago. So he's got a new series out. It's he's calling it the Mr. Olympia Champions series, and it features a couple different guys, but you guys probably know. Here is Brandon Curry. You can tell by that great hairline he's got. We have the great Phil Heath. And this is actually good. I like that one. I think the best, the Phil Heath one. Jay Cutler in a very pensive, contemplative moment here.
Very pensive.
And, of course, Sean Roden. Great. Typical. I think it was a great one because Sean loves to wear a hat, but yet he's still all, looking pretty jacked in that picture. So, great job, Charles, and thank you for sending me these prints. I will have to have them framed and put them on the walls of the RxMuscle studios. I'm very proud to say that, this is like art. If you guys want to hang like art on your wall, bodybuilder art, then you can do it. I don't know if I would hang this in my house necessarily because I probably wouldn't be allowed to, but certainly in my work studio here, they're great. Now, I also want to show you guys some other stuff. We got the new Roy test testing kits, and these are the complete test. Now, these are this new testing system is a much bigger kit than we had before. It has way more vials. It also has a clenbuterol test in it. It also has a quantitative test in it, which allows you to test for testosterone and enanthate and cypionate, trenbolone and enanthate, and DECA. You can test how much, the quantity of what's in here. So a lot of people have been asking me when these are coming out. This is a test that has a lot of different vials in it. I would suggest if you've never bought Roy test, this would be the one you'd start with because it's going to give you a whole bevy of different vials that you can test a bunch of different stuff in here, including clenbuterol, like I said, and including the quantitative. If you don't want to use this, we also have on the website the individual quantitative tests for test cypin and enanthate, which is one test. And then there's another one for trenbolone and enanthate, not acetate, enanthate. And then we have one for DECA, durabolin, nandrolone, and decanoate. And those will tell you how much is in there. You'll know how much testosterone is in there. There'll be different ranges of milligramages. And you just follow the directions. It's really simple. I'll have all the charts on my DavePalumbo.com website under the Roy test category so you can see them. It gives you the directions how to do it and mix them. And it also gives you the ranges so you can actually see exactly what you have. Now, you still have to test this for the testosterone. For those 3 quantitative tests, you still have to test to see if the stuff's what it is. So that's a separate test. So they're different vials. Within this test, you have everything. So you can kind of do the test what it is, and then you can also test how much is in there for those 3 compounds. Whereas if you buy the individual quantitative tests, you're still going to have to buy like the DECA test. For instance. And we have all that on the DavePalumbo.com website. Look, Bill Llewellyn has taken this to the next level now. And the clenbuterol test actually will also will tell you quantitatively how much you have in there as well. So the technology is tremendous. And I can't stress enough how important it is to test your gear because I'm telling you, I'm seeing over a 50% fake rate on the gear that's out there because we sell a lot of these kits and people contact me, hey Dave, what is this? Is it false? Is it negative? What do you think it is? And most of the time we're seeing a lot of fake stuff. A lot of test propionate is taking the place of a lot of the injectables, and a lot of D-bol is taking the place, unfortunately, in place of Anavar and Winstrol. So you got to be careful, especially if you're a woman. You do not want to be taking Dianabol when you think you're taking Anavar. That's not going to be good for you. So that's great. And then for those of you who like the massage guns that I always review, there's a new head available for them at recoverfun.com. They're calling this Recover Flex. So it's like a little bit softer of a head, and you can kind of stick that on that massage gun, and it's very phallic looking. I don't want to hold it anymore. I'm getting a little nervous by holding it. But anyway, that's the update from here.
Let's get to the questions. Before we do that, I wanted to wish a very, very happy birthday to our webmaster, Butch. So everything that you see on RxMuscle.com, and for that matter, SpeciesNutrition.com, is pretty much handled by one individual. That's Butch. Wanted to give him a big time birthday shout out and thank for everything that he does. for both RX Muscle.
Hey, speaking of Butch, Butch has been doing really well in mountain biking. He was getting ready to compete at the Masters Mountain Biking Championships. And in his age category, he's like really ranked very high, and they canceled it. I said, why would they cancel an outdoor race in the mountains? Go figure. COVID. That's why.
So there you have it. Butch, a competitive athlete in biking, Dave, a former bodybuilder, and me, a slow pitch softball player. Let's get to the questions again. The first two questions from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. The first question, Dave, how would you use insulin if you were to use it for a contest carb up?
I don't usually carb guys up that heavily because I usually use...
Actually, Dave, I'm sorry. I'm going to cut you off because my mistake. That was actually from last week's episode. I read the wrong email. Let's go to the one that was just sent to us this week. So the first question from this week's batch, can dropping calories too soon and sticking with the new lowered calories for a long time, like 1 year or more, lower your body's BMR? If so, how can you reset it quickly?
I mean, dieting on low calories, yeah, absolutely will lower your metabolic rate, especially if you're going really, really low, because your body wants to conserve energy, so it just slows itself down. But once you boost calories back up, it'll pick up again. Once you up carbs and up, protein and up all the fats, your body will, amp itself up. I like to give sometimes analogies from other, aspects of life. In the snake kingdom, I breed snakes. Everyone knows that. When you don't feed a snake for a very long time, what happens is it shuts their metabolism down to the point where they don't even lose weight. They don't lose muscle mass, nothing. They can conserve, and their organs of digestion actually shrink in size. It's pretty crazy. And then when you do give them a feed item after a couple months, because they can go months without eating, these snakes. During the breeding season, they don't eat at all. When you feed them again, they've shown, when they've just experimentally, when they've done MRI studies, their organs exponentially grow in size, and they wake up, and their metabolism wakes up, and their metabolic rate goes through the roof. So we're similar. We're not that extreme because we can't go months and months without eating. But what happens is metabolic rate adjusts according to what's coming into the body, because the body has to conserve fuel. Now, that's why I always recommend a cheat meal once a week, because when you boost calories and you boost carbs and you boost volume of food up really high for that one meal, it kind of shocks your body and keeps that metabolic rate going at a very, very high amount. Sid, I want to also mention one thing. Even though you read the wrong question initially, I wanted to make a statement about that, because a lot of people, I've done a lot of videos with Milos and just talking about insulin in general, and some people about how to correct running high fasting blood sugars. And my suggestion a lot of time is to use a long-acting insulin like a Lantus insulin or Toshiba. And a lot of people just can't get access to that. They sell the short or fast-acting insulin you can go to any pharmacy and get that without a prescription, and that's like a Humulin R or a Novulin R. Those are regular insulins are available without script. Now in Walmart, if you guys go to Walmart, they have generic forms of Novulin, and it's Novulin R, which is the short, faster acting, but they also have a Novulin N, Novulin N, which is a long acting insulin. And you can get that without a prescription now, and it's really cheap. It's like $25. So for those people who don't have access or don't have insurance plans or can't find a doctor who will prescribe it, you can go to Walmart now, if you live in the United States, and you can get Novulin N or Novulin R for $25 a bottle, and you don't have to worry about a prescription, nothing. All you got to do is ask the pharmacist for it. So that's good news. I just found out from my diabetes and insulin insider, Colette Nelson, told me that. So good news for guys. If you can't get like Lantus and Toshiba, which are a little higher end on the long-acting insulins, you could always get Novulin N for $25 at Walmart. Great deal.
Second question again from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. Dave, what do you consider optimal protein for longevity? They put, I guess, the intake, gram or pound, protein intake for longevity.
For longevity, they say that less food is better. The intermittent fasting and everything. I think that if your body fat levels are low, okay, that's the best way to be. So in other words, some people, if I fast for a very long period of time, I lose a lot of weight, you know, and I don't want to lose any more weight. I'm good at where I am. So I need to eat a little bit more. So you got to kind of figure out what your metabolic requirements are, I guess you could say. For a while, I had cut my protein way back because I wanted to drop some weight, and I had my creatinine was running a little high, you know, about 4 or 5 years ago. Now my creatinine is normal low. You know, it's like 1, you know, which is on the really low side compared to, you know, what it had been when I was bodybuilding and I had a lot more muscle mass. And, you know, now I'm focusing more on eating more protein, but I'm keeping my carbs a little lower now because I don't want my blood sugar, you know, my blood sugars were my hemoglobin A1C was a little high, and now I got it back down to 5.2, which is really good. So I've cut back my carbs and I've raised my protein. What I'm trying to tell you is that you constantly have to make accommodations and changes according to your blood work and how your body is doing. If your blood sugars are not that great, you might want to eat less carbs, more protein and fat. If your kidney function's a little high, then you cut back your protein and you eat a little bit more carbs and fat and less protein. And that's the key, I believe, to longevity. It's finding how your body is functioning via the blood work you're going to get done every 6 months or so, and then adjusting your diet, you know, accordingly. Now, it's easier for people, maybe not as fun, but it's easier if you can look at your body in the mirror and say, okay, you know what, I think I gained a few pounds. I'm going to cut back my carbs a little because I want to lose some weight. And then when you're leaner, you might want to say, okay, I'm going to boost my carbs up and maybe cut my protein back a little bit. You know, I'm always lean. So for me, I have to go by blood work. All right, how is my blood sugars doing? They're doing well. All right, I can eat some more carbs. Or, you know, how's my kidney function? Good, I can eat more protein. So I've upped my protein lately, probably almost doubled it. And I feel good, and my blood sugars are great because when I raise my protein, I cut my carbs back. So that, once again, it doesn't have to be the same thing all the time. You have to cycle your foods and how you're eating according to how you feel and what your blood work says.
Let's go to our Instagram questions. Again, first of all, if you're watching us here on YouTube for the first time, hit subscribe below, hit the notification bell. You won't miss any of our content, any of our updates. If you like what you're watching, hit the thumbs up button. Obviously, that helps out a lot. If you're not following us on Instagram, our handle is official_RxMuscle. Dave, before I answer the question, have you gotten a chance to catch up on, I guess, the back and forth between Fouad Abiad and Greg Doucette?
No. What's the latest? Greg, isn't it always funny that Greg Doucette is always arguing with someone online? I think he does it purposely for content, you know.
You think? But no, I guess they've been, I wouldn't even say they've been arguing. I guess from what I understand, Greg Doucette made a video, Fouad made a response video, invited Greg onto his show. I guess Greg declined an invitation. But I guess the crux of the argument is a debate over calories or maintenance to bulk. So I guess if you want to interject your thoughts into your theories on that.
I don't know what the debate is about. Raising, you know, is it calories or macros? Is that what the debate is?
Calories over maintenance to bulk. So how about this, Dave? If you don't want to answer it now, what we could do is I could send you, I guess, a couple of links, whatever. If you
it's not going to be another Lane Norton thing, is it? Where is it? He's trying to say it's just caloric rather than what you're eating.
I'm not sure if it's that. I think it may be like, if I remember it correctly, it may have to do with off season. How about this? Let's
yeah, I'll take a look.
I'll send you the links. You can watch them. We can prepare a separate response video. I guess
watching these videos.
You can get your thoughts in on it. Let's go to Chris Angeletti. Milk thistle benefits for bodybuilding, and can milk thistle be used during a bulk?
Yeah, milk thistle is great. Specifically, you know, milk thistle is really silymarin. That's the herb. And when it's combined with N-acetylcysteine, which is also a really good liver detoxifier because it's a precursor to glutathione and it's orally absorbable, it becomes a really beautiful liver cleanser. And what it does, and I've explained this before, is that the liver, produces bile. And the bile is produced throughout the entire liver, and it's released into the ducts in the liver, the bile ducts. They start as little tiny ducts and they get bigger and bigger until they finally drain into the gallbladder, which is right next to the liver. The gallbladder stores the bile, concentrates it, and then when you eat a fatty meal, it squirts it out and helps break down the meal. It's like squirting like a dishwashing detergent out to break down, the grease on your fingers. That's exactly what bile does. But within that bile is all the junk that the liver has detoxified. Now, if the liver is overtaxed, okay, and it's overworked, it gets inflamed. You know, inflammation, we all know, is the killer of our bodies. And when it gets inflamed, these little bile ducts can get pinched off. And what happens is that the junk can't drain out of the bile ducts. It gets backed up. The liver even swells more. It causes inflammation. It can cause, a breakdown of liver cells. It could also cause fibrotic, scar tissue to be laid down there. And that's not good. That's permanent damage to the liver. So we don't want that. Silymarin and some of these antioxidants, like I mentioned, N-acetylcysteine being the precursor to glutathione, they dilate, open up these bile ducts, and they reduce the inflammation within the liver and allows the liver to get rid of the junk again, so to speak. So if you're on a cycle, or even if you're cleaning out after a cycle and you're trying to detox, even on my detox program, I usually recommend this. I recommend a Silymarin-based product. I sell on DavePalumbo.com Bill Llewellyn's product called Liver Stable. I like that a lot because Liver Stable has the Silymarin, which is the milk thistle extract, and it also has the N-acetylcysteine, as well as a few other accessory ingredients that are helpful in the detoxification of the liver. So you might want to check that out, the Liver Stable product. And to be honest with you, I would take it all year round. I didn't know that much about liver detoxification when I was competing because no one really talked about it. We still used Live 52 a little bit. I got that when I went to Europe, but then people just didn't care and didn't think about that stuff. Nowadays, I take a liver detoxifier now. I don't even take any drugs, but I just do it just because I think it's healthy for you. But I would take it if I was on a cycle, and I certainly would take it when I got off cycle to detoxify as well. It's an excellent product.
Let's go to Casey LeBaron. Eating to maximize your metabolic rate. Is there a certain theory with frequency of meals and carb timing? Are there certain types of carbs needed? How to prevent this from slowing down after dieting for a while? Example, cheat meals, fasts, etc.
It sounds like a very all-encompassing question. So what would you take was the gist of the question there? So
I would say the gist of it is in terms of eating to maximize your metabolic rate. That's the overall overlaying point.
Well, I mean, if you're not dieting and you're on an off-season scenario where you're trying to put muscle on, you certainly want to have a high protein, and you certainly want to have moderate, fat, so you get all your essential fats, because that's important. And then you got to figure out what your carbohydrate requirements are. What carbs you eat are really not that important as long as you're not overeating them. Now, I don't like sugar carbs because sugar raises cholesterol. Sugar is not good for insulin sensitivity, so you can lead to high hemoglobin A1Cs because your blood sugars run a little high. So I never was a big sugar eater, even when I was like the bodybuilding at my height of my career. Did I have some sugar in my off season? Absolutely, but it was compared to the quantity of calories I was eating, it was very minimal. Nowadays, I don't really eat any simple sugars ever. Fruit would be my only simple sugars that I eat. I don't eat anything that's just sugar sweetened because it's just crap. So if you're looking to optimize metabolic rate, obviously high fiber, carbohydrates are going to be the way to go. Post workout, obviously you want to have some fast acting, fast absorbable carbohydrates, like a high molecular weight carbohydrate, like my Carbolyze, for instance, or like a Vitargo. These are carbs that are going to get into the muscle very quickly and rapidly and raise insulin. That's the only time you really want to do that. A lot of times, like if I'm rushed before I go to the gym, back in the day, I would have some faster acting carbs like a Vitargo or a Carbolyze product as well, with like a whey isolate, right? Because I would drink it literally 10 minutes or 15 minutes before I went into the gym. I don't want food sitting in my stomach that's going to take 3 hours to digest. A shake like that will be in my system within 15 to 20 minutes. So that's a quick hit. So around training times, you can do the quick carbs, fast, acting, absorbable, proteins like whey protein. But there's no specific magic, food that you're going to eat that's going to optimize your metabolism. As long as you're giving your body what it needs, it has no reason to shut down its metabolic rate or slow it down. Your body slows itself down when it's deprived of things. If you don't give it enough essential fats, if you're not eating enough carbohydrates for your brain to have a fuel source, your body will shut down its metabolic rate to conserve energy. As long as you're not doing that, you have nothing to worry about.
Let's go to bodybuilding social. How can some coaches change the athlete's diet daily after looking at checking photos of them every morning? What are they looking at for in the check-in photos, and what changes do they make depending on how they look? I've heard some increasing or decreasing either carbs or fat, or making changes to both depending on how they look in the morning. So specifically you, Dave, in terms of your athletes prepping for a show, what specifically are you looking at day in, day out when you look at their progress pictures or video?
Right. First of all, I don't get progress pictures every day, except toward the end of the diet when the body fat is very low and their bodies are changing like daily. Those times sometimes I can get pictures twice a day. I don't want them to lose weight too fast. If they're not losing enough weight and we're on a limited schedule, I got to make sure they're losing. So in those situations, I'm changing stuff quickly. Usually it's adding food. So I get a picture from someone on a Tuesday. They're competing Saturday, and according to the schedule I'd written out for them, they were supposed to be very low carb today, but I see they're flat as a pancake. They're shredded to the bone. Now I'm worried. I'm like, I don't want them to start losing muscle, to getting too flat. So I'm like, you know what? Last meal of the day, go get a burger and fries, because I just think they need it. So I make accommodations like that, or hey, you know what? Tomorrow, let's do 50 grams of carbs at every meal. Because you're just too flat, and you need the glycogen load a little bit. That's for a coach. That's the times that you're going to see a lot of change. And when I see guys in an off season who are coaches who are changing their guys' diets every day or every other day, that's not necessary. Okay, that's over coaching, and it's usually because they're afraid that if people think that they're not changing things around a little bit, that they're not doing their job. And you know what? I understand that. A lot of people there are some people out there that want their whole lives micromanaged, but that's just window dressing. That's not really doing anything. I mean, to me, I like to keep the diet very similar off season and just make small changes to it so that I know, okay, you know what? The guy hasn't gained any weight for the last week. I'm going to up his food now. Okay? Or hey, you know what? The guy has lost weight. I got to up his food. Or you know what? This guy's getting fat. I got to cut his food back because I think he's just eating too many grams of carbs. And so that's when I make the changes. In an off season, there's no way you can make a change every single day because you can't see. It doesn't take one day to gain a pound of muscle. It might take 3 days to gain a pound of muscle. So I think that once again, people want to make it look like, hey, I'm the best coach out there. I'm making updates every day. Yeah, well, you know what? When you have 50 clients, you won't be getting updates from them every single day, or you'll want to blow your brains out. And it's just unnecessary, unless we're close to a show, like I said, and the person's metabolism is very volatile, and I got to see what's going on. A lot of times in those cases, I'll just have a picture and a weight updated to me, and I'm going to be like, all right, you're fine. I'll talk to you tomorrow. So it really depends on how the person looks.
Let's go to Shawnee Boy Fit. Dave, what's your opinion on performance enhancers in Hollywood today? I know there's another channel out there in the fitness realm. It's more plates, more dates. And I know he does a lot of these, what I think a celebrity is taking. And I know he's mentioned a lot of A-list Hollywood actors, what he thinks they're taking. But he specifically mentions Chris Hemsworth and how he's going to be playing Hulk Hogan in an upcoming movie. How rampant do you think PED usage is amongst Hollywood's elite?
To try to guess and say I think this person's taking this or that, you have to be a freaking moron. Unless you have an inside track on someone and their trainer or something like that, you can't guess what someone's taking by how they look. I mean, that's ridiculous. Oh, I think he's on Anavar because he looks like this. Yeah. Even I can't do that, and I've been doing this a long time. All right, so I think people just do videos like that because the speculation gets some hits on their videos, and I would never do that and hang people out there just because I want to get hits for making up crazy speculations. But I will say this: I definitely believe, and I probably know in some cases for sure, that's for certain movie roles, there are bodybuilders, there are actors that will employ bodybuilders to train them and help them get bigger, for the role. And these guys will blow up, 10 pounds. 10 pounds on the big screen is huge. So, and I'm sure they're using something, whether it be a little Anavar or a little Winstrol, or maybe a little testosterone even, or some GH. We know that Stallone uses it. I mean, he talks about it, that he's used it. He got caught in an airport in Australia with GH, so we know he uses it. And the guy's 70, so I mean, he looks great, and who cares what he uses at this point? It obviously works. But I think there have been other actors that obviously have used it to bulk up for certain parts. And then I know, look, I've had actors contact me or through their trainers contact me and say, hey, my guy has to lose 15 pounds of muscle. He's too big. What should he do? And they're not on any drugs, but it's not so easy to lose muscle. You got to almost starve yourself and eat no protein, do a lot of cardio. So it depends on the role, but these guys are only preparing, for 12 weeks, and then they'll probably never use them again unless they're reprising the role. So, but who knows what they use? I think less is probably the name of the game, because most of these guys are not bodybuilders. They don't care. They don't even want to continue looking like they do after the roll. That always amazes me. Guy gets in the best shape of his life for a roll, puts on 15 pounds of muscle, and then after the roll, in 6 months, it's gone. Because he knows that if he's too big in Hollywood, and too big could be 10 pounds over your normal body weight, that he'll lose other roles. Joe Piscopo, I don't know if you guys remember him. He was a comedian on Saturday Night Live, did a bunch of movies. The kiss of death for him was putting on muscle. He got huge. He was like into bodybuilding. Joe Weider even had him on the cover of Muscle and Fitness. And when he got all jacked up, no one wanted to hear his comedy anymore. He wasn't funny anymore. He was too big. People couldn't take him serious. So, it is what it is. It's Hollywood, man. It's create the illusion, believable in the role. Do I think Chris Hemsworth, for Thor, was on? I think he definitely took something. He was unbelievable. I mean, he went from a skinny guy to something. Do I think he took a lot? No.
Let's go to Bandy Nats. Ivan, do you think anyone can grow enough muscle to reach their classic physique weight cap?
I think that a lot of people think that a classic physique cutoff is like something that's super easy to reach, and that you go over it and then you're going to have to starve yourself to make weight. A lot of guys are not even close to it. If you're a bodybuilder and then you decide, hey, I want to do classic, and you got to come down, those are the guys that have a tough time because they've already added the muscle. But people who are starting out, most people are not even close to their classic physique cutoff because they're not that big. And so it depends on, what your frame size is, how tall you are. Short guys have a tendency to have a tougher time because if you're short, your cutoff for the classic physique, because remember, classic physique is based on for your height, you can only weigh so much. So short guys have to weigh a lot less. So they seem to tend to have a bigger trouble. The taller guys seem to have no problem making the weight class because they can weigh a lot more, and a lot of tall guys have trouble putting on muscle anyway. So it really depends on who the person is and the physique. And like I said, it's usually the guys that were bodybuilders and now want to go down to classic physique. Those are the guys that have more of a problem.
Time for a couple of more questions. See if we can bang a couple out. From Tromley, I wish someone would give me a really good explanation. BCAAs and EAAs, now they're saying you don't need BCAAs, only EAAs. What is the truth?
Well, EAAs are just essential amino acids, and there's 8 of them. And of those 8, 3 are branch chains. So to say you need essential aminos but you don't need branch chains is ridiculous because when you take essentials, you're taking branch chains. So that's a moronic statement right off the bat. That has no relevancy. And the truth is that you can't just eat essential amino acids and not have a full array of all of them in the sense of whole foods or whole food shakes like whey protein. You're not going to grow on just popping essential aminos or drinking scoops of amino evolved all day long. It's not going to happen. You need a full array of these things. And really, I believe that your body needs to digest whole sources of animal protein and then extract what it needs amino acid wise for rebuilding muscle tissue. Now, what branch chains and the essentials might be good for is stimulating mTOR, because we know leucine stimulates mTOR, and mTOR is what turns on the protein machinery in the body. It's like flipping the switch in the factory and saying, okay, let's start making some cars here. Let's start making some muscle tissue. But once you do that, you've got to feed the raw materials into the factory to make the muscle, okay, which is the whole source of protein you're going to eat. So once again, don't think you can be taking, essential amino acids all day long and you're going to put on massive amounts of muscle. That's not going to happen, I can guarantee you.
Let's go to, and we had a similar question a few weeks ago. It was about top 5 bodybuilders, and I remember like you had an explanation as far as Jay Cutler and whether he fits into the top 5 or the top tier of that and the bottom tier of that. The question is, Jay Cutler, is he the most underrated bodybuilder? Not many other bodybuilders put him in the top 5, but his track record would suggest top 5.
I don't think he's underrated because he's probably one of the most popular bodybuilders of all time. And I think that's an accolade. I'd rather be the most popular than guys saying I'm the best, because, Jay probably Jay has made more money than any other bodybuilder, aside from maybe Arnold Schwarzenegger in the history of bodybuilding. So in that sense, he's probably one of the most successful. Physique-wise, I think he's up there because he's probably one of the biggest of all the Mr. Olympias, him and Ronnie, right? Jay was probably bigger than Dorian. I think even if Dorian had some, better, slightly freakier body parts, no one beat Dorian's back. Ronnie and Dorian are the 2 best backs, but Jay had a great physique. It's just, he wasn't a small-waisted guy. He had a very big bone structure, but he was so wide that he always had a good V-taper on stage, and he had great abs. So, and he had good stage presence, and he was, he's a very popular, Mr. Olympia. And if Ronnie wasn't around, and if they would have let him beat Ronnie in 01 when he should have, he might have been Mr. Olympia for 10 years. And then I think people would have a completely different, opinion of him. So Ronnie kind of ruined Jay's legacy in terms of how he rated among Mr. Olympias, because he never won as many Olympias as some of the guys like Heath and Haney and Ronnie did, and Dorian. But that was just because Ronnie was there, the whole time, stealing those things, those titles from him. And he deserved them, Ronnie, most of the time. But if Jay had won in 01 and then done the 02, because Ronnie didn't look great in 02. If you remember, Jay skipped the 02 Olympia, which he even admitted to me in an interview was probably the biggest mistake he made, because he probably would have won in 02, especially after being so close in 01. So he just was a little angry and he let his ego get involved and he didn't do it. But had Jay won in 01 and then done 02, he would have definitely repeated in 02. And then, Ronnie might not have beat him again. Maybe Ronnie would have just continued to play second to him like Jay was doing to Ronnie. So once again, if Jay's competition, I guess, placings would have been different, I think we would have ranked him a lot higher up, because physique-wise and muscle mass-wise and conditioning-wise, he was up there with the rest of them. I think he just didn't have some of the freaky proportions that a Coleman, Haney maybe did, and Dorian did. But I definitely have him up there, as one of the top. And he's, like I said, probably the most popular and probably the most wealthy of all of the Mr. Olympias.
Before we ask the last question, again, we teased this at the top of the broadcast. We're trying Zoom out for this episode. So for those of you that have been suggesting it, and for those of you, maybe notice a difference, better or worse, as opposed to Skype, which we most traditionally use, comment below. Let us know what you think. Obviously, your feedback is very important to us. Last question. This harkens back to a question, Dave, that we had months ago, and that was whether or not a bodybuilder could date a non-bodybuilder. So the question is, since you became a bodybuilder, have you only dated female bodybuilders?
You know what? I think most of my relationships were with people who competed. I don't think they weren't all female bodybuilders, but they were definitely girls who competed.
That's what Dave. That's what I meant. Competitors, not necessarily.
Yeah, you know what? It's very hard to. First of all, the way I was traveling, especially after my career, I was traveling a lot. So to show, I don't think I would have. First of all, I didn't have any chance to meet anyone else other than people who competed and traveled and went to shows and stuff like that. And I think that no one else would have understood my lifestyle. Look, we tend to have relationships with people that can relate to the lifestyle that you live. If you're a medical doctor, a lot of doctors, get married to nurses, because they understand the lifestyle. Same thing with, athletes. It's great to be able to, if you're going to go to the gym every single day and you're going to diet on a restricted diet, it's a lot easier to be with someone who's doing the same thing you are, than not. Okay, But at the same time, sometimes it's good to find someone outside of the sport. The problem is if you're a competitive bodybuilder and the person who you're cohabitating with and in a relationship with doesn't understand what you're going through and isn't supportive of that, it's going to create a lot of tension there, because they're going to think that you're selfish. They're going to think that you're just wasting your time, and that's a very negative environment to be in, because here you are trying to accomplish something and you have no support of the person you're with. So if you're with someone else who competes, they understand the sacrifices, they're making it themselves. Even if you're not competing at the same time they are, they can relate to what you're going through, and they could support that. So I think that's an important component of a compatible relationship. Having said that, I always say we attract who we are. So if you're a certain person, a competitive bodybuilder at the time, you're going to attract other competitive bodybuilders. If you're not, and you're out of that, and you evolve out of that lifestyle, you'll probably attract someone different, because now your mindset is different. And I think that that's important. The compatibility is really important in the sense that you both have to understand each other and be able to be compatible with what you're doing. Otherwise, it creates this I don't understand what he's doing, he's just being selfish. Or I don't understand why she doesn't understand what I'm going through, because this is hard work for me. That doesn't work, and it never does work. And unless you have someone who's just like, like let's say like Lee Haney, his wife didn't compete, but Lee Haney was a professional bodybuilder. He was Mr. Olympia. His wife understood that was his job, but he was successful. If Lee Haney wasn't winning the Olympia every year, maybe his wife wouldn't have been so understanding about it. You have to think about that as well. There's only one Mr. Olympia. There's only so many people who make a lot of money in bodybuilding. What about the people who are making no money? If their wives or girlfriends, or vice versa, if the girl's boyfriend or if they saw the person spending all this time and money in a sport where they had no return financially, would an outsider support it? Probably not. But an insider who's involved in it themselves and understands the sacrifices and everything, and understands that you don't make money right away, or maybe never at all, they would be much more likely to stick around because they're doing the same thing.
That's going to do for this episode of Ask Dave right now on RxMuscle.com and, of course, the RxMuscle YouTube channel. Dave's rant on, I guess, an incident that took place recently at a Planet Fitness with a gym member being kicked out for the shorts that she was wearing. It's an explosive rant, highly entertaining. Definitely recommend you go on right now and watch that. And, of course, later tonight, all new episode of the After Hours podcast. Dave and John Romano get their take on, I guess, I don't want to know if it was a back and forth, but Bob Chickarell's comments about Robbie Robinson. And then, of course, Jimmy the Bull doing Jimmy the Bull things. That and much more on RxMuscle.com. For Dave Palumbo and our producer, Tyler Shore, I'm Sadiq Faruqi. We'll see you next time.